Hopefully we're all coming back to the same meeting place this time. I think we were in two different rooms. I think we'll give everybody a minute to come back in, trying to track and make sure we've got everybody. I think we're still missing Kristen, who was here on the prior meeting.
Yeah, she had just messaged me and was having trouble getting into the second link. For whatever reason, that first meeting needed to, it ended prematurely, and that needed to be closed out before this link could work. So hopefully it looks like she's joining now, and I think we have critical mass back up from that first link. So apologies again for that expected technical error. We are pretty new at this. DC Hadler, I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thanks, Dave. And yes, sorry all. We're back at Pandemic 101, trying to remember how to use Zoom all over again. But thank you all for rejoining us. And I think Cassie was running through the statutory requirement when that cut out so suddenly. Perhaps Matt, if you could pull that back up for us so we have the nice visual of the statutory language to work through. And back over to you, Cassie.
So I think we just went through the big three requirements, really around looking at the best practices with other states, studying bulk purchasing. But I think what's really going to hit home for everyone is this report of the work that we're actually going to be able to do here and share with everyone by that deadline of January 31st, 2005. We're excited about all of this work, and we can't wait to get things going. Hence, we're starting now. Next slide. So what we want to talk about and what we want everyone to think about are really our next steps. And so with that, we're talking about our September preliminary agenda that we're still playing around with, but we would like to present to you at our next meeting some of that research that we've done and the information that we've developed, a possible implementation of a new pricing option for home heating oil vendors beginning 2026. Last year, or actually still this year, we did a lot of work. We took our homework assignment and we did what we were asked, and we started looking at some information. We're going to allow that data to be shared at our next meeting, and we're excited about that. But what we'd like also to do is hear about other suggestions for our September meeting. And so if we can pause for a moment, are there suggestions of what we should talk about during our September meeting? Anybody? You can raise your hands, put it in the chat. Yes, Chris.
Thank you. So not knowing what data you've collected at this point, in terms of the best practices piece, I would suggest, as you know, I've shared a document with you in the past, that was I collected information from my counterparts throughout the region in the Northeast, to ask how their programs run. Obviously, that was them reporting it to me, but it might be helpful if DSS reached out to their counterparts in the Northeast states to ask them to provide a copy of how their energy assistance program works, and maybe a vendor agreement so that we can compare apples to apples instead of it being just the anecdotal information that I gathered up, because I never really looked at source documents. It was just my counterparts telling me how their programs run, which I trust they know how they run, but it might be helpful to do that.
So Chris, also in that instance, I think what you mentioned is a really great point, that you've had some other information. I think it's important that you also share the information that you previously had and you shared with the department, because other people who might be part of this work group may be unaware of it, haven't seen it, or unfamiliar with what it is. Even if it is anecdotal, sometimes anecdotal information is valuable. So we can add that to September's agenda, and we can do both tied to that. It might take a little work for us to be able to speak to our counterparts and get all of that information with the public hearing going on and our submittal of our federal block grants by September 1st. That might be a little difficult for us to get that level of information, because all of our federal counterparts, our Region 1 and other states, will be submitting their block grants. So it might be a little difficult to get that level of detail and responsiveness back by the September meeting, but I definitely have marked it down.
What's the best way to share with the rest of the group? Is it to send it to you guys to distribute, or what's your preference? Because I have it at my fingertips.
Right. If you send it to us, we'll make sure we get it out, and we can make it an attachment for the documents that are part of this work group. Also, I think it's important that, and you'll see this as we continue the conversation after we get other feedback from people, but we're going to show you where we're going to keep this information, where it's going to be housed on the DSS website, and anyone can have access to this level of information. But before we move on, is there anyone else that has suggestions or comments or anything else for our September meeting?
Cassandra, will DSS be sharing their research ahead of the September meeting so we can kind of take a look at it and digest it?
I will check with our counterpart who's actually presenting it to see if that data is final, because I understand what you're saying. Although it's great to see someone do a presentation, you still want to take a moment and touch it and then be ready to be prepared to ask questions.
Exactly. All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Yeah, this is Kristen. Hi. I'm just wondering, because I am new to all of this and I'm not familiar with what you currently do. What is the current process? What are the roadblocks? Where do you get complaints? I would like to understand that. I don't know if there's maybe someone who can give a synopsis of that.
So, funny you should ask. So Paul actually was the person who started off creating this fixed margin price document a bazillion years ago.
Paul Greco?
Yes.
He is supposed to be participating. He's on vacation for this week and next week, so he hopefully will be on the next one. He's my mentor right now.
So he has a lot of that history tied to the fixed margin price and how we actually create it and everything else. I think Lynette is still, she's probably in movement, tied to what it is, but what it actually is we have our pricing structure, and then we have what we reimburse tied to what that is, and it's based upon county, for want of a better word, tied to the county pricing. And so that old structure that you used to use is the current structure that we are still actually using. And what we'll do is we'll do a quick overview before the group actually gets started. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll do an overview of the pricing structure. Then we'll do a presentation from the DSS folks. Then Chris will send his information, so we'll have that and we'll get it out. And that way it'll be a lot more manageable, tied to the being respectful of everybody's time. But the institutional history, you're going to be surprised. You're going to see Paul be like, they're still using that and these kinds of things. And I'm like, yes.
That's interesting. Okay, I look forward to hearing about that.
No problem at all. And I think, Chris, what's also going to be interesting, and Paul will help, is a transition of what DAS went through from the process that you used to have and how you switched over through your procurement process, and you're doing a totally different process now. So you're going to bring
Yes.
all of that talent and that information into the conversation also.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that.
No problem at all. All right, Matt, I don't see any other questions or hands raised. Oh, sorry, DC Haller has his hand up.
Thank you, Cassie, and I appreciate the conversation, everyone. I just wanted to put one thing on the table for everyone's consideration and maybe asking for input on. One of the provisions in that statutory requirement specifically related to bulk purchasing of fuel. And that is something that DSS has not done in the past and that we have very limited familiarity with. So really wanted to canvass the group and see if anyone had information that they might be able to help start putting together for us to explore that very specific question, which was one of the targeted pieces of our group's review. So if anyone knows more about bulk purchasing or states that have done bulk purchasing and can help us to dive into that conversation, that's something I think that we at DSS would certainly really like to lean into the group's connections and information on, because it is an area that we don't know very much about.
Commissioner, I'll just to give you an idea of the experience that we have with it. There are no states in the Northeast that I'm aware of that has used bulk purchasing as a part of their LIHEAP grant. But obviously bulk purchasing is done a lot in the commercial sector. So it's the industry has a lot of experience with that, but from a government funding standpoint of a program being run such as this, I'm not aware of that happening in the past with energy assistance. So I know that we did do a tabletop exercise with your predecessor many years ago, probably approaching 20 years ago, where we did look at bulk purchasing. We looked at buying fixed contracts. It got deep in the weeds when we looked at the potential for the state purchasing hedging instruments to try to protect the price against volatility. So we did go pretty deep, and at that time, DSS decided, and I think the industry decided that we didn't want to move in that direction. But 20 years, a lot has changed. So I think it's a worthwhile exercise to take a look at that again.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chris. I obviously we've been charged with it, and it seems like a really good idea, but we want to, just from a very practical administrative perspective, I think understand all the pros and cons and what it would mean for the agency. I mean, we're not even quite sure if it means that we would have to store fuel or whether it would all be based on contracts. Those are the kinds of things that we are not very knowledgeable on. Perhaps there's an opportunity for us to bring in somebody with some expertise. Would happily lean into connections of you or anyone else in the group who might know someone who could talk to us about us. Perhaps Rep. Case, you'd like to come and be our expert information provider, at least on some extent on this, and help to educate us on the topic. But really, just I don't want to commandeer the concept. Everybody should feel free to chime in with other aspects. We just want to make sure that we are leaving ourselves enough time to gather that critical information to help assess that information, because we have very little that we can bring forward right now as an agency on that topic.
So Rep. Case, are you nodding your head that you will be a subject matter expert on bulk purchase? Okay. So third meeting, can I identify you for the third meeting to do the presentation on bulk purchasing, and I'll follow up? Thank you. Okay. Matt, if you could pull back up the presentation.
Sure.
Right. So all right. So if you can just go back one slide, I'm not sure if we have the presentation up. So you're going to see here, and once we're done, I'll share with you the actual website, because I don't think it's there yet. I mean, on this presentation, but you're going to see that DSS LIHEAP working group. I'm going to take you to our website where you can find the information, where the records are going to be stored, tied to meeting schedules and agendas and documents and everything else. Again, continuing full transparency about this great work. Next slide. So we want to just point out the work that we're going to be doing and the schedule. And so this is going to be a fast and moving group, and we're going to require all hands on deck. And when we're looking at our proposed schedule right now, and we'll get the cadre out if it hasn't been done yet, is our next meeting is September the 3rd, 3 to 4. Then it's October, November, and December tied to this item. And so we want to be clear that this is going to be the schedule. If you can make it, it's great. If you can't make it, at least because I think everyone has a backup, if you will, for the most part, please send someone that can come and represent your group. And we want to continue this great discussion, if you will. So next slide. Oh, we're at questions. So before we move on to questions, I'm just going to ask Matt to allow me to share my screen.
You should be all set.
Okay. All right. So what I wanted to really do here is share my screen. Hold on, let me get this out of the way. Is really to share my screen. And this is that's going to be on the DSS website. It's going to live there. And again, full transparency. If you can't make the meeting, you'll be able to find this information and everything else. On the DSS website, we've created a page to capture our great work. And it's the LIHEAP working group. And we go right through it. So the overview for everyone, again, just reinforces what we've been talking about over and over and over again. And it talks about here's the act. If someone's curious, oh my gosh, I can't find it. I don't know where I put it, what it means or anything else. It's right here, hyperlinked. You can click on it and be able to access it via a PDF. Again, we talk about who the working group is and all of the various members of the working group. Again, we're highlighting the fact of this is a collaborative and a team effort. We move on to the final real deliverable here is really around our report. And that's DSS's report that we're going to be submitting to the joint standing committees. And that's going to be due by January the 31st, hence why we have that monthly cadre of work that we're going to be doing and attempting to maximize our time as much as possible. The next piece here is really the meetings. And so you'll be able to see the meetings, which you'll see here, which is today's meeting. The actual agenda will include the presentation, will include minutes, and then we'll include the recorded meeting. So that way, if you miss it, you've actually missed nothing. It'll be here and transparent for everyone. And then we'll have this other tab, which is still under construction because we don't have any documents yet posted. And we're going to cover those other documents here that might be any of the work that we might have. And so let me stop sharing so we can just regroup. I just want to make sure everyone can see. We want to make sure from the DSS perspective that the work that we're doing is available for anyone to see. If you have questions, click and access it. If you have questions, I missed the agenda. I don't know where the agenda is. Here it is. Here are my minutes. Can I get it recorded? Here's my presentation, and the slide deck that we just did will be loaded up there for you to be able to access and be able to view it. And again, more questions. This is just to get us started, to talk to you about thanking you for your willingness and your commitment of time. We know everyone's time is really, really valuable, but this is going to be a lot of work, but we're all committed to the charge that's been given us. And I want to thank you all for that. And if there are any more questions, the DSS team is here to assist. And if you have questions for your counterparts, let's say you want to know, hey, Chris, what does DAS do with their fuel tied to the contracts and what that looks like? Maybe you're interested about how DAS is doing that and you're wondering, why is DAS on this call? I don't see DAS at any around the table or anything else. They have valuable skills tied to the work that they're doing of buying bulk purchase for fuel for the state of Connecticut. And that's why they're here as that subject matter expert. So we all have these special talents and we're bringing our own interests together to serve Connecticut's vulnerable populations. Any other questions?
Sandra, are the meetings public? Like if we're to invite other vendors or other subject matter experts, should we just forward them the link, or is it closed? I mean, how does that work?
I can let Dave explain, but these aren't closed meetings. Go on, Dave.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Cassie, and thanks, Chris. That's a great question. So, on the website that Cassie showed you a few minutes ago, we're going to have a link to the DSS YouTube page where anybody in the public can watch. I think CTN also picked this meeting up today as well. So folks will be able to watch all the meetings. If you want to invite folks and have them participate, we can send the Zoom link. I'm happy to send that out to whomever would like to join and participate. The legislation does have the 5 official members of the group. So those are the members, and Cassie is the DSS representative, but absolutely open to the public for others to join, others to submit materials. Everything that gets submitted, because it is public meetings, we will put on the DSS website for full transparency, and we'll be building that out a little bit more once we have more materials to get on there. But yeah, to answer your specific question, happy to have anybody join who would like to.
Great. Thank you, Dave.
Cassie, would it be possible to put the meeting agenda, the next meeting dates in the chat? I didn't get a chance to note them all.
Yes. Let me
Thanks.
get that information. We'll dump it in the chat, and we will make sure we get a save the date meeting invite out to everybody.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? All right. Seeing no other questions, I think we are over today. This is a short meeting. Don't expect it to be short all the time. Expect the next couple of months, we're going to be full on for that 1 hour, and I'm going to be squeezing all of the work out of you as much as possible, just to make sure everyone knows it's going to be work, but it's going to be fun. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to be like, I can't believe I had so much fun. I'm exhausted.
Oh, Cassie, I haven't started talking yet. I don't know how much fun you think this is going to be.
I think anytime we can come together for our mutual customers, Chris, we've had these conversations, as you know, always customer-centered first, and then let's figure out our path forward tied to our advocacy. Because again, we're all about the customer and where we provide that service for our mutual customers. And anything else is gravy.
Yep, I trust you.
Yes, Rep Case.
Just real quick, we're going to have some legislators watching this that are on the committee, so they know what's going on. Just saying, November 4th will be a difficult day. We won't have anybody here from us, so you might want to think about that if we can.
Yeah,
that's a pretty important day.
I was going to suggest that, but figured everybody would just, I could watch it later, but I can assure you I will not be here on November 4th.
That's fair enough, Rep Case. Thanks for pointing that out. We sent that as tentative, so we're happy to adjust maybe second Monday of the month that month. So we'll take a look.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do for everybody again is that I'm going to send out a save the date of myself or Matt or whoever it might look like. We'll get out the save the dates for all the people. And that way it's going to be totally on your schedule, and you don't have to, like I sometimes do. I go in the chat and I'm like, what was that date again? And I pick a Monday and it's a Wednesday or whatever it is. So we'll take care of all of those things and make it work for everybody. All right. Thank you, everybody, again, for all of your help and assistance as we continue this journey. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank
All right,
you.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.